Good evening. Welcome to Kent County Levy Court combined meeting tonight with business and committee meetings. We are meeting today, Tuesday, July 12th, 2022, in the Levy Court Chamber, room 203 at the Kent County Levy Court Complex. Before we officially open the meeting, I'll turn it over to the county administrator to give the rules and information on how to dial in by phone and or WebEx.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, everyone. This meeting is being conducted in person at 555 Bay Road, as well as made available through the internet via the WebEx platform. If we have guests joining us via WebEx on a mobile phone, if there's points along the meeting where there's opportunity for public comment. We have public hearings and also committee meetings where public comment is received. And during those times, if you have a need to express comments to Levy Court and you're on a mobile phone, *3 will signal us here as a raised hand, and we can let you into the meeting room for your comments. If you're on a computer, there's a raise hand icon on the desktop that you should see that you can also activate that will alert us on our end to let you into the meeting room. If you're going to be offering comment during public hearing, we have 2 items for public hearing tonight. We will ask you before making your comments to state your name and address and be sworn in or affirmed by the county attorney before proceeding. And we'll repeat these instructions if we have guests who wish to, or who are online at the time we are at the points for public comment. We'll repeat these instructions. And Mr. President, this is a combined meeting of Levy Court. We are following the business rules of order that have been adopted by Levy Court along with the Masons rules of order. And at this time, I also would like to inform the commissioners that it's my understanding that Brenda Wooten, our clerk of the peace, is joining us virtually tonight via the phone line. And so she'll be doing her duties, recording the proceedings, and from time to time we will need to, if we need to get someone to pronounce or spell their name for the record so that the clerk gets it for the minutes, we will do so on her behalf. Brenda, are you there? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Excellent. Welcome. Back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you. At this time, we will call the business meeting to order. I'll ask Commissioner Howe to lead us in invocation, Commissioner Maston lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and a moment of silence for our troops and first responders be Commissioner Sweeney. All rise, please.
Heavenly Father, once again, we recognize your presence. We ask your guidance in all of our deliberations. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence to honor our military, law enforcement, firefighters, paramedics, and other first responders who have lost their lives in the line of duty protecting and fighting for our freedoms. We also honor all first responders and medical staff who have succumbed to COVID-19 virus complications contracted through close interaction with infected patients losing their lives caring for others. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sweeney. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
I'm present.
Mr. Buxton?
Present.
Mr. Hall?
Present.
Mr. Howell?
Here.
Mrs. Maston?
Present.
Mr. Sweeney?
Here.
Mr. Pepper?
Here.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 present.
Thank you. We do have a quorum. Need a motion on the adoption of this evening's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Sweeney, second by Commissioner Angel. If there's any questions on the motion, can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Buxton,
Yes.
Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Howell,
Yes.
Mrs. Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mr. Pepper.
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. This evening's agenda has been adopted. Mr. Quayle, do we have any introductions this evening?
Thank you, Mr. President. I did want to take a moment to introduce the commissioners to a new format that will be using for new employees. As you may have noticed, for the past actually few years, it's been a challenge to get employees to come back to the building after they get off. And it's been quite a challenge getting any 911 dispatchers, paramedics, new paramedics, and certainly wastewater folks who work the second shift or third shift to appear before the commissioners. So we approached leadership about changing up the format. So what you should see going forward is each month, first meeting of the month, we're going to show you every employee who was hired during the month. So this month we did June for July. And then those employees who would like to come or are able to come to the meeting, we will introduce those. So tonight we do not have anybody, actually one employee introduced, hired last month was introduced at the last meeting. The other two work at the wastewater treatment facility and obviously could not be here tonight. So any questions about the new format? Okay, so first meeting of each month, we'll have a list of who was hired the previous month. You'll be able to recognize their photograph, learn a little bit about them, and then anybody who wants to or able to come to the meeting, we'll go ahead and introduce those to the commissioners. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have a couple of public hearings this evening. This time we'll open the public hearings. First one under Commissioner Buxton is Resolution 3945. Commissioner Buxton, turn it over to you, sir.
We'll have Ms. Gold get us rolling.
Thank you, sir. Again, my name is Diana Gold. I'm the Director of Public Works. This public hearing is being conducted for the purposes of giving the citizens of Kent County the opportunity to present testimony on the resolutions before Levy Court. All statements shall be made either from the podiums at the front of the room, by WebEx, or by phone. For the record, please state your name and address and business, and then you will be sworn in. After everyone has had the opportunity to speak, the hearing will be closed and Levy Court will take the action as it deems appropriate. Levy Court's decision will be based upon the public hearing testimony and recommendations of the department and the Kent County Regional Sewer Advisory Board. The first resolution before you tonight is a resolution on a proposal to dissolve select properties from Kent County Sewage Disposal District Number 1 for the Spring Creek area, caulk and related properties. The map is on the view screen. Mr. Caulk contacted the department because his property has been put in ag preservation. And there were some adjacent properties that were to be served through the sewer to be placed in his larger parcel. So we've also proposed that those properties be removed from Kent County Sewage Disposal District Number 1. The Sewer Advisory Board met on this item in June and supported the dissolution. The department also supports the dissolution. Back to you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Any questions? Any questions from the commissioners? If not, at this time, we'll open the public hearing on Resolution 3945. And I'll ask anyone who may be in the audience that is in favor of this resolution to please come forward and give your name and address and state why you're in favor of it. Anyone in favor?
Mark, do we have anyone on WebEx?
We have no public participating online at this time.
Thank you.
Okay. At this time, anyone opposed to Resolution 3945? Anyone opposed to Resolution 3945, please come forward. Still no one, Mark?
There's no public participating online at this time.
All right, great, thank you. Seeing no one in favor or opposed, at this time we'll close the public hearing, and I'll turn to Commissioner Buxton.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think the residents in that area will be happy to know that This property, along with quite a few properties, are now no longer available for high-density residential development. And I did talk to the owner, Mr. Kalk, who's doing well, and he is in full support of this. So I make a motion to approve Resolution 3945. It's a resolution upon a proposal to dissolve select properties from Kent County Sewage Disposal District Number 1 pursuant to Section 4624, Chapter 46, Title 9 of the Delaware Code as amended, Spring Creek area, Calk, and related properties.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Buxton, second by Commissioner Hall to approve Resolution 3945. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Angel,
Yes, reason stated by Commissioner Buxton.
Mr. Buxton,
Yes, reason stated.
Mr. Hall,
Yes, for reasons stated.
Mr. Howell,
Yes, reasons stated.
Mrs. Maston,
Yes, reason stated.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes, for reasons stated.
Mr. Pepper.
Yes, for all reasons stated.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Roll call reveals Resolution 3945 has been approved by Levy Court. Next item on the agenda is Resolution 3947.
Ms. Gold?
Resolution 3947 is a proposal to extend Kent County Sewage Disposal District Number 1 for the Frederica West area for the Baker Carey property. The property is at 4330 Andrews Lake Road. It's estimated to be 125 EDUs, equivalent dwelling units. We received the request for sanitary sewer from the owners. The proposal is a 125 lot subdivision. It is on the south side of Andrews Lake Road. Based on the technical feasibility study, there will be a requirement for gravity mains connecting to existing gravity system in Linwood Village subdivision. There's adequate capacity. The owners agreed to the technical feasibility study and understand their responsibilities, and both the staff and the Sewer Advisory Board recommend the extension of the district. That's the conclusion of my report.
Any questions? Seeing none, at this time, we'll open a public hearing on Resolution 3947. Resolution 3947, ask anyone in the audience who is in favor of this to please come forward, state your name and address, and be sworn in, please.
Ring Lardner, Principal and Professional Engineer with the firm Davis, Bone & Friedel, 1 Park Avenue, Milford, Delaware, 19963.
Mr. Lardner, do you swear or affirm, sir, to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the Levy Court. I'm here on behalf of the owner and developer. We made this request on their behalf. We agree with Mr. Gold's something that she stated, and we know our responsibilities. And the sewer extension would allow the developer and the owner to move forward with some development plans as we begin that next step. And just here to answer any questions should the Levy Court have any questions for us.
Any questions? Don't say any. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience? Anyone else in the audience in favor of Resolution 3947? Please come forward.
Mr. President, I see no members from the public online at this time.
Thank you. At this time, anyone in the audience opposed to Resolution 3947, please come forward. Anyone opposed?
The same, no members from the public online.
Seeing no one, at this time, we'll close the public hearing on 3947 and ask Mr. Buxton for a motion.
Okay. I would like to ask a question or two.
Go ahead.
But I'm going to make a motion. Well, let me ask a question or two. But the motion is going to be to approve because this is secondary. I was curious to see if anybody was online. Ms. Gold, the residents in the area, what participation, what intel do they have on the application, if any?
So the application was advertised as part of the Sewer Advisory Board agenda. It was also on the agenda for tonight's meeting. There was no one attended the Sewer Advisory Board meeting other than Ring Lardner, who was representing the owners. So there was no phone calls received in opposition. There was no testimony at Sewer Advisory Board in opposition, similar to the situation here tonight.
It would have been, they would have had to sort of tripped over in the paper or something like that. There's no individual notification nearby owners.
Correct.
Okay.
Under the Delaware Code, individual notification is not required.
Looking at that area, how much of the immediate area is covered by actual public sewer?
So it was showing Linwood Village next door. Is online mapping working? Mark, would you be able to bring up the area in online mapping?
See the individual homes right there? Are they all on septic? I believe they are, but
Yes.
they are.
So it's showing Linwood Village on the map in the lower right-hand corner is where the county sewer is, and this is extending the district by connecting it to that existing sewer.
The applicant isn't required, right? But the logical question for the next commissioner that's sitting here when this comes up is, how come we weren't asked if we wanted to join? Why is it, it's right here now, you're encompassing this area, we're on septic, is there a way for us to join the district? And obviously, secondarily, no, but,
Well,
go ahead.
They would go through the same process that these folks are going through. So if there's a way to serve them, so you can see the dashed orange line the sewer has not been designed, but that dashed orange line allows the sewer to reach adjacent properties, and potentially also with a grinder pump or a gravity system, parcel 36 and 35.01 might also be able to be served. Typically with a grinder pump, it overcomes the problems of gravity because you can pump it uphill. So there is still the opportunity for additional folks to connect to the sewer that would be put in place for the Baker Carey property. I don't know if that was the way you were going for that, or?
I think that it's going to be a logical question. And then Ms. Kiefer, is this an application that will come before the RPC and the regional planning or the Levy Court, or is this one of the ones that's, go ahead.
Provided it's just a straight up subdivision, it will go to the Planning Commission only.
It will go in front of the Planning Commission. And what's the timeline for that? Any ideas?
We don't have a
Fair
project yet.
Fair enough, thank you. All right, I'm good. I'm ready to make a motion. Motion to approve Resolution 3947, a resolution upon a proposal to extend Kent County Sewage Disposal District Number 1 pursuant to Section 4606, Chapter 46, Title 9 of the Delaware Code as amended, Frederica West Area - Baker Carey property.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Buxton, second by Commissioner Hall. Any questions on the motion? I don't see any. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Yes, reason stated by Commissioner Buxton.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes, reason stated.
Mr. Hall?
Yes, per staff and Sewer Advisory Board recommendations.
Mr. Howell?
Yes, reason stated.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes, reason stated.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes, for all reasons stated.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes, for all reasons stated.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Roll call reveals Resolution 3947 has been approved by Kent County Levy Court. At this time, we'll close the public hearings and recess to committee meetings. The first item on the agenda is Planning Services Committee. Mr. Buxton, Chair, turn it over to you, sir.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. Kiefer.
Good evening, Commissioners. What's before you tonight are the options for round 26 of the Ag Land Preservation Program. Of the properties that were forwarded to us by the Department of Agriculture, there were 25 altogether. 12 of them meet the standards that the Levy Court set for participation in the program. The Levy Court did allocate $200,000 toward the round. Staff would recommend putting that funding toward the purchase of those 12 properties. That totals 881 acres for this round. And just for some context, since the inception of the program, in Kent County, 505 farms have been preserved. That's 70,600 acres, well ahead of the other two counties. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
How many farms was that?
505. 70,600.
Acres preserved.
Mm-hmm.
In the program itself,
From the inception of the program, from 1997.
right? One question, one of the things I think that we did right, and we've said this, I've said this, but we did it, was create this formula to get the politicization out of it, right? So that's a good thing. Is there anything left inside the program that needs a tweak? Is there anything, is it functioning, firing on all cylinders, or is there something that the landowners typically say, man, I wish we would do something X, Y, Z?
We've not gotten any such feedback. So far, it seems to be working. The Levy Court several years ago now sort of broadened it a bit. And the criteria is broad enough that I think we're able to encompass as many farms as possible.
And the biggest challenge, right, the landowner, the farmer says, is that we discount it. It's our reward. So it's a competition, right?
Yes.
To a certain extent. Okay.
And the discounts, it's actually pretty interesting to watch over time. Some years the discounts are very high. This year the discounts are about 10% lower than they were last year. But that's a factor of the economy and what people are willing to do.
So it's committee meeting. Are there any other? Yes.
Yeah, Commissioner Buxton, I just have one question. Is this process only something that's done once per year?
It is.
Yeah, it's an annual process that the state starts. It's actually the state's program. And annually, they send us a list of who's applied, who they are funding, and then we go through that to pick the ones that meet our criteria, and then Kent County's dollars go toward those.
Thank you.
Mr. Pettit-Dimash, the 200,000 is a general fund allocation,
Correct.
and so, not saying we should, but if we did 300,000, then we'd have more. Is that how the program would work?
Yes.
All right. And would you be able to? Is it that simple or no? Because of the matching funds. And I'm not making a motion to do that tonight. That's not what I'm saying.
I wouldn't necessarily, I mean, what you would be doing is a greater offset to what the state is doing, because the way we've been sort of choosing properties the last several years is we used to do it so we just got to the $200,000. So it was only a handful of farms we'd be able to do. In this case, we're simply saying, State of Delaware, these are the farms that meet our criteria. Our $200,000 will go toward only those farms. They are going to fund, they're not funding all 25, but they'll fund slightly more than the 12 that we would be contributing to. So if you're sticking with this criteria, it's not that you get more farms.
Mr. Pettit.
I just would say, though, any funding that we provide, it basically extends the reach of the program. And so, like Sarah mentioned, we're kind of the lead county, and that's because we've been participating for almost every round that they've done. I think the other counties joined a little later. I know Sussex is playing a bit of catch-up, but they're putting more towards it every year to do that, and because they see the value in it as well. So the more that you can provide, and I know Secretary Scoos usually approaches me when I see him and says, "Hey, you know what Sussex is doing, you guys." So at one point we did reach a fairly high pinnacle back in, I think it was about 2008 or 9. Mr. Tuthill used to appear before you and every year hammer us about elevating our participation. So this year we put 200 in, 23, but if next year we want to consider a richer investment in that, we can do that.
I think it's worth considering. I think maybe, tell you what, Commissioner Sweeney, let me hear what you have to say.
Thanks. So while we're talking about money, Sarah, can you put a dollar amount on that 70,600 acres?
And this is not just county dollars, keep in mind. $104 million.
Since 1997, so 26 years or so, 25 years. So I think $300,000 is well spent if we go that route.
Right? And maybe what you do, because you don't want to get into a XYZ contest with Sussex. We just can't win that fight, but maybe there's a percentage that you're looking at versus a number. I don't know. Obviously, I won't be here to make that decision, but I got the same conversation you did. And, you know, I always credited Brooks with taking a lead role, and of course the county, us following suit, but really participating. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we're being told our participation's lousy. And I'm like, okay, how's that make sense? But anyway, yes.
I might be able to add some context if you're looking for percentages. In Kent County, and this is based on total amount of farmland in 1997, right, when the program was created. So you've got a constant. Of that, 38.7% of the farmland in Kent County has been preserved. For comparison purposes, 21.7% in Newcastle County and 19.6% in Sussex County.
For that. Unfortunately, Sussex is throwing around a bunch of cash, and they can. Good for them. And we don't want to match that, but yeah, let's see if maybe we want to tweak it a little. So, that's enough. Any other questions? Show of hands, move this forward. All right.
Thank you.
Ms. Kiefer. Public work. I got to end my committee, right? Yeah. Any public comments? Any public comments?
No members from the public online, Mr. Chairman.
All righty. Seeing none?
Okay, moving forward, Public Works Committee, Mr. Howell, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Gold is ready to go.
So the first item before you is the Whispering Pines Mobile Home Park Phase 2. We've received a funding offer from DENREC. This is a private-public partnership to provide sewer to Phase 2 of the park. We talked with you all on this about a year ago, July of 2021. And we were authorized to pursue funding sources and authorized the president of Levy Court to sign the public-private partnership. This evening, we're here before you to accept a funding offer from DENREC and authorize the president to sign those documents. And we want to set the district expansion fee at a non-increasing, at a non-increasing rate. I think I've just got that backwards. We're going to freeze the main system capital improvement fee at the FY 2022 rates. We typically freeze it based on the date of the application. And we're going to provide a waiver for the district expansion fees. So that's the request before Levy Court. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Any questions? All right, all in favor of this being an item tonight, raise your hand. 7 up. Next item.
Thank you. I'm a little bit, I think I'm speeding through things.
I'm getting dizzy watching you going back and forth here.
Commissioner Howe's rubbing off on you.
I'm sorry.
Hey now, we'll talk about that later.
It's what happens when you come back from vacation. You lose track of what you need to do. So we're here before you on the second item. We're looking at increasing the rates for RK&K for the biosolids capacity expansion project. What we're looking at doing is it's slightly retroactive. We're going to June 1 of this year for the rate increase. The rate table is attached, and there is a motion going along with that, and we're requesting that the president be authorized to sign the agreement. Any questions other than my absent-mindedness?
All right,
Trying
no
to speed
questions?
through it tonight.
You what?
I said I was trying to speed through it. I was trying to make it really fast.
Well, no complaints here. For a business item tonight, all in favor? 7 up? Very good. Any comments from our audience on these two items? Seeing none, Mr. President.
Thank you. Are you sure you're done?
I think I'm done. There are only 2 items on the agenda.
Gotcha, okay.
So I think I'm really done
checking.
now.
You got us confused there for a few moments. All right, next administration committee, Mr. Angel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Quayla, if you join me up front, please. And our medal policy is up for discussion. And this isn't about who's received medals or who got what. It's about, do we have the best policy in place, and can it be tweaked? And I will say that one thing I have learned over the years, our first manual that we got for Levy Court was only a few pages long for all Levy Court. Now it's about that thick. So it's good to go back and look at things to see if we got the right policies in place and any tweaking can be done. Mr. Quayla.
Thank you, Commissioner Angel. So while the agenda says amendment, I think the intent tonight was just to discuss any potential amendments to the policy. We haven't drafted anything. I think we're here to see if commissioners would like to make some adjustments.
Okay, there's a couple I'd like to throw out there before anybody jumps in, please. I know that, like I said, it could be tweaked to look a little better. Under section B, it says individuals eligible to receive a medal must be a Kent County resident. I'd like to also drop the or and add support of a Kent County resident, somebody else that could be applied for that's not within our boundaries, that could actually make a statement. And then under number 3B, at the end of benefiting Kent County, if we could add and or our country for their military service or whatever whatever service they had, whether it be something with the government outside the borders of things we can't talk about that comes available. It'd be great to be able to honor people like that within our boundaries of Kent County. And then under C1, and add meritorious service to our country, also at the end of or, and number C, number 1. So that would, it says exceptionally meritorious, but it doesn't say country. And I think that would clear up a lot of anything that could be said about anybody that's available for a medal or do a medal based on what we have to send to our committee to look at. So, having said that, anybody else? Commissioner Sweeney.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you putting this on the agenda for tonight. I would offer an alternative that under B1, a Kent County resident change the or to and. Period. Change it to and. They have to be a Kent County resident, not somebody from outside our county, not somebody who lives in Newcastle that supports somebody here. I don't want to open up the medal to more people because there are plenty of ways for Kent County to recognize people within the county. This medal has been given out, and we changed it. Keep in mind, we changed it some time ago to take out the lifesaver, people who've saved lives. So they no longer get a medal from Kent County for this medal from Kent County. So some of the people that we've given this to who have provided service to Kent County, it's just a short list. George Wright, Phil Tuthill was mentioned earlier before, Russell Peterson, Dave Robinson, Ron Shomo, Lynn Deakins, Ruben Salters, Pete Celebrity, Myron Steele, Bill Torbert, Nancy Cook, Judy Diogo, Charles Coker, Connie Holland, and none other than Mr. Buxton's father, Dave Buxton Sr. This is a list of individuals who have provided exceptional service to Kent County, Delaware, and deserve the medal. And my thought would be that the way it's written just needs to be followed, except we don't put this to the Personnel Advisory Board anymore. It should come to Levy Court to decide whether or not we move forward. Just not sure how to do that. And moving forward, because this is a medal that's provided from the 7 commissioners who are sitting here, not on the advice of our advisors who are appointed, and may have other reasons for saying yes to somebody who doesn't fit the qualifications that we have here. So, I would like to crank it down a little bit, not open it up to more people.
Commissioner Hall?
Thanks, Mr. Angel. I want to concur with Commissioner Sweeney. When I found this policy and read it, I thought it was a perfectly adequate policy, but kind of surprised that it hasn't seemed to be actually run this way. So I do believe that there's a role for Levy Court, perhaps an executive session, so that it can still maintain the element of surprise. But I do think it needs to be bounded. It should be someone from Kent County. So I agree with Commissioner Sweeney on that point, because the wider that we cast the net, the less importance it'll have, I think. It's good that it's a short list, all right? So it gives it all the more meaning, and I think that we could quickly find ourselves doing these things frequently if we just open it up to a wider cohort than Kent County. So I guess that's a long-winded way of saying I agree with Commissioner Sweeney.
Sweeney?
Sure. Counselor, is this an item that we can add as an executive session?
Well, I don't believe so. There are only 9 categories that permit that, and this doesn't seem to be one of them. I'd like to review that maybe a little more carefully, but my gut tells me that we could not go into executive session to develop this any further.
Commissioner Hall?
Could we deliberate without mentioning the person's name, just person X, and we would all know who it was that was under consideration, and then deliberate on the merits of it without disclosing who we're considering?
Yeah, I'd have to. I can't give you an answer this moment on that. It's not an employee, and I understand, anytime you're discussing competencies, and maybe competencies would come into play, but it's not an employee, so I'm kind of struggling with that. Yeah, I'd like to reflect on that a bit more.
Commissioner?
Thanks. Alan, what are the other methods of providing recognition from Kent County? So we have the medal, we have a tribute, then we have a county key.
I've seen them.
Michael?
Well, we've had county keys, and they weren't part of a programmatic thing. It was more of a gift item that Levy Court, usually the president, would bestow on someone if he was going to, like, someone who was of significance, who was retiring from service or things of that nature. They haven't been given out a tremendous amount, but we have done those. The thing we do frequently are tributes, as you know. We do a lot of memorial tributes and various other types of tributes for presentation at meetings to honor people, Farm Bureau things, and like we do every year. But this is the only civilian award that is formalized in our policies, is this medal.
Anybody else? Commissioner Buxton.
To get why we're here, but what are we looking to change? Is there some textual language to better define who's eligible, correct? To better define who's eligible to receive this medal. And the textual language comes down to just simply and, or what else?
And doing away with the procedure of going to the personnel board.
Personnel board has been doing it in the past.
Your appointee from each one of us represent us on the personnel board for personnel issues.
And so if we have a structured eligibility, right, for an individual, and they meet that standard, then they simply, so the key is they have to meet that standard first, then go to the, and it's kind of a challenge because that becomes kind of almost a rubber stamp. And maybe it should be because they've met the standards, the high bar. I don't know. Okay. My take is simple. It needs to be a high bar. We definitely have avenues to honor individuals who have done good things. But to receive that medal, it's the difference between Congressional Medal of Honor versus maybe an other Medal of Valor or what have you. There are different levels, and I think that this one has to be a very high bar. I would suspect, I think, Kent County is a Kent County person. Does it say right now that if you're 100 years old, you're eligible? So if you moved here at 90 and you turn 100, yeah, so, but I guess that you're eligible. It doesn't mean you'll get it, but that means you're eligible. Because I don't know if that, God bless them, but I don't know if that's medal worthy. It's high five worthy. But I don't know if it's medal worthy. But that's not being considered for change anyway. Would I be supportive of and, meaning requiring them to be Kent County? I would, unless somebody can tell me why I shouldn't. Mr. Pepper, sure. Yeah.
I think that number one, B1, it says a Kent County resident. I think it could read a Kent County resident or former Kent County resident in a case where a person might be in a nursing home out of county, or they may have lived in county all their life and recently moved to the beach or moved somewhere to be closer to their family. But if they lived in Kent County and performed good deeds while they're in Kent County, I think it only makes sense to include former Kent County residents.
Medal. To me, the medal is an earned lifetime achievement, and it is not centered around longevity. It's centered around a lifetime of works that have earned that medal. So just the mere fact that you maintained a position for X amount of years doesn't automatically qualify. It might bring attention. It might say you might be worthy of it. Should not guarantee it. I would suggest that it's a lifetime of achievement, either in one singular avenue or multiple in the county. I think those things matter. But we are overcooking it, but at the end of the day, we do need to get it right. So, Mr. Commissioner, well, I'm not running this. Go ahead.
Mr. Pettermaj.
Thank you, Chairman Angel. I just wanted to make sure everyone understood. Being a county resident is one of the criteria, but it's not a prerequisite. Because if you look at item 3, it says it could also be awarded to someone who performs an act of service worthy of the award within the boundaries of the county. So when we, for example, honored former Governor Russell Peterson, he was never, as far as I know, when he was governor, he may have lived here, but he was not residing in Kent County. But the Coastal Zone Act greatly benefited Kent County, and that's what he was recognized for. If someone saves a life, they might be from some other state, but they happen to be here, you could recognize them. It's not a requirement that you be a county resident. It's an or, not an and, if you look at that. Thank you.
Mr. Petimaj, also technically, Governor Peterson was a resident of Kent County because he was at the governor's house. His daughter went to my high school during that time frame, so he was a Kent County resident for his tenure. So when he did that, when he wrote that, so
Yeah, I said that. I said he may have lived here when he was governor, but he didn't live here when we awarded him. But my point is, it's not a requirement. It's an or, not an and. It says you may be a Kent County resident or, and then there's these other things. And one of the other things is they did something significant in Kent County, but doesn't mean they have to live here.
true.
Using the logic of the governor's mansion to create residence, I would argue that we need to have a 3-inch metal that's square. But anyway, let's moving on now. I really think, right, here's what I really think. To me, that one there doesn't, again, we're overcooking it and I'll do whatever you want. I'm not sure that the Kent County medal is for Governor Peterson in the Coastal Zone Act, a singular event. I really did. I thought that means it's a longevity. What's the other medal that we give out that's life-saving? It's called life-saving? Yeah, well, that's interesting. What's it for? I'm kidding.
And that's a newer version of this that came out after this.
Yes, I remember it. I knew that I didn't know it was specific to life-saving, but that's fine. All right. I'm going to exit out and follow your guys' lead, whatever you want to do.
Commissioner Hall.
Just based on our conversation here, and we could probably imagine dozens or 100 different variables. I guess what I wanted to get across tonight was I would like to follow this policy. Because we have given out several since I've been on Levy Court and was not involved. And, you know, when I read this, it says Levy Court shall consider nominations forwarded by the committee. And I'm not opposed to disbanding the committee or taking them out of the process, but I haven't been involved in a single discussion. And I just point that out because that might be the time for us to tackle all the different factors that could be involved with any particular person. And I think it would be easier to do it on a case-by-case basis following the written policy than it would be to try to codify all of the things that all the variables that we might want to try to pin down. So wanted to just throw that out there.
Well, one of the things Commissioner Maston.
Mr. Hall, I agree. This policy's been in effect for a while, and it seemingly has worked. And we've given it to a third party to review to make sure it's meeting the criteria. Why are we changing it?
Commissioner Sweeney.
Thanks. The reason why we're looking at changing it, Ms. Masson, is because the recent medal was awarded to someone who did not perform meritorious service within the boundaries of Kent County, had not attained the age of 100, so they didn't meet the qualifications of getting a medal from the county. So if we're going to follow that, that gentleman would not have received the medal until he attained the age of 100. So to me, you start to dilute the importance of the medal when it goes to people who didn't meet those qualifications.
But Commissioner Sweeney, that's a one-off. It seems as though all the other ones, perhaps, that have been done long before my time, obviously, met the criteria. So once again, why are we changing the process for a one-off?
Because it set a precedence to move forward with many more that have performed services in the military. And, you know, while they get medals in the military for those services, We can give them tributes here from Kent County, but that medal, I don't want to see that diluted to be something less than what it really is.
Commissioner Buxton.
I'd like to remind you guys that I'm the one that starts the arguments here, so I need you guys to cut it out.
I'm going to take your
Well, Commissioner Sweeney, I happen to disagree with you wholeheartedly on what you just said, because meritorious service means a lot of things. And sometimes you can't discuss or talk about what that person has done for the people in Kent County or its borders. And that happened to the one you're talking about for a period of time. And it was worthy of him giving it. And to take a board away from what we send it to, then we should do away with all our boards and everything come to us. If you realize we really want to start working, because that's what we do. We send things to our boards, they do the homework, they make recommendations, it comes back to us, and we make deliberations based on what they have said. We may agree, we may disagree.
Mr. Angel, excuse me, sir. Yeah, I've been looking at the FOIA statute, and I have concluded that this topic could not be discussed in an executive session, could not be.
Thank you, Counselor. Mr. Hall.
So under the current policy, so just based on meritorious service to the county and or community, are we saying that somebody who does a, just an extraordinary act for the country, and because we're one of 3,000 counties, we are going to consider and issue a medal because how big does that get? I mean, that's very broad criteria. So are we saying they have to live in Kent County, work in Kent County, and perform some meritorious service to the nation, of which this is one of the counties, and that's okay? That would be acceptable criteria to award the medal?
Well, that's why I added the military, or not military, but to service the country, because we don't know what our country people do when they leave here, whether they're temporary here, PCS here, or TDY here. They're still part of Kent County at that time. So we don't have any idea what our military does, or the service agents within the higher ups that we can't talk about. Over in like Fort Meade area, okay, which I do know of a family member that is part of that, who now does not live in Kent County, but I will tell you that things that are happening, you wouldn't want to know about. So, but when it comes to light and it can be talked about, that person should be recognized at some point in his lifetime before he's 100, period. Because we're doing it for life achievement. We're doing it to recognize those who've gone above and beyond what we want to do, what people would expect them to do. Those are the heroes. The true heroes are the unsung heroes that sometimes don't get recognized. So tweaking this to, like I said, for the country and former Kent County residents, believe me, that's minor. But yet, the policy goes to the personnel board. The personnel board looks at it. They have their discussion, and they can make a recommendation. Now, I do know that recommendations have been made. I know Commissioner Sweeney's had recommendations made that we didn't know about too. That the person, if they had known about it, they wouldn't have shown up. So it was kept secret. So if we're going to do this, let's do it for the right reasons, not the wrong reasons. This is a great policy to show what our Kent County residents when we can show them off to the people that they live with and work with. That's what I'm asking for. That's what this was all predicated on before, believe me, before you guys were even here. I'm the only one left. This was political back then. It's not political for me. It's never been political for me. It's about doing it for the right reasons, to do what people would expect they would like to see happen from Levy Court, to put them on not a pedestal, but put them up there where they can be noticed for what their tributes and achievements were. Anybody else? Because I was so into this, Alan, did you get the the ones that were noted for changes?
Yes, Commissioner, I did write down, well, obviously there's some conflicting language, but I can draft up the revised policy if you like, and then commissioners in a committee meeting could strike whatever you didn't like, or add what you would like to add. I could do it that way if that would be helpful.
Because I see this is on the agenda for approving for the business meeting tonight too, so I didn't know if we're going to have another discussion on this again, or I surely don't want another discussion in public myself. Do you want to read what you got then, sir?
I mean, well, it's all conflicting, so I don't know that I can. Whatever I say on one side will be conflicted by something else. And certainly it's not something that you would have to adopt tonight. I could bring it to a future committee meeting with the words in there, and you could study it more. I mean, this was basically a discussion item tonight, so we really weren't prepared, at least I didn't think you were, to officially approve the changes. Is that what you would like me to do? Just incorporate as much as I can the non-conflicting language and bring it back to a future committee meeting?
Yes.
Okay, if you want to show of hands and bring it back to the committee meeting, 7 up. Yes, sir.
Very good.
Any public comments on this item? Any public comments? Alan, anybody on? Or Alan, Mark, anybody on?
No members from the public online, Mr. Chairman.
Back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Al. At this time, we'll reconvene the business meeting. Old business, well, the first item, I believe we've taken care of. No, it's not either. No. Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to ask Mr. Ennio Manuel to come down and give us a brief update on the funds that we provided so far, and I think part of that is an ask for the balance of the funds.
Hello, everyone. How y'all doing? Everything going great? Everything's been going very good at Co-Purple. We've really been helping out a lot of people. There's been a lot of need, especially with, everything happening downtown with the fire and, just some of the violence. But overall, we're really happy. We're very thankful for that 30,000. We're able to really stretch that really far. We're feeding, we're going to stop feeding people and working on housing and casework every day of the week, but we're able to do it now 6 days out of the week. Working with Friendship House out of Newcastle County. So we're actually doing casework now every day. We call it the Friendship Cafe, where we serve coffee and like all the different toppings that you can get at a coffee shop, but then on the menu is also social work programs. So, we've been able to really survive over the winter. We didn't have enough funds to maybe get everyone into a hotel, but we were able to get 80% of our females into a permanent housing stability, program from our emergency shelter. So that was really great. And for the men, maybe around 40%, because we have around 60 to 80 men that we were assisting in the wintertime. So, and you know, we have children. I mean, right now we're dealing with people exiting foster care. We've had foster social workers, the kids are exiting at 18 and they've dropped them off at our office. Recently we've had 3 of 18-year-olds in that case. So just things like that have also made us want to reach the mark and do more. But we're really thankful. We're doing a grant for the FHL bank loan, and we're working with different people are helping us out with that. And there's a property on 132 Penny Lane that we would like you to also put in your record, your mind. The owner is willing to hold it onto it. It's 9 acres for us while we are able to get the full amount of the money. So when that happens, we're just looking to maybe make that into a place where we can also maybe have a retreat farm for people to be able to do some, mental health exercises, maybe build housing on that, permanent housing as well, working with, Carlson Development and some other mountain consulting that could help us on that. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'm here to answer any questions on that handout we gave. It was kind of like the universe of Code Purple right now. It's kind of how we made it. So, if you have any questions, please let me know.
Any questions for Ennio? Mr. Angel?
Thank you. Good to see you again. I know Susan's not here, but one of the things I have definitely learned from Susan is accountability. And I know we give you 30,000 out of the 60,000, which you're supposed to show for support where the money went. So do you have a breakdown of where the money went and
yeah,
was spent?
Definitely.
Okay, because that's what I was expecting tonight, so we can get you the other 30,000.
Well, I listed it there. Did you get the handout? I had emailed it to you as well. Kind of had a breakdown of exactly where those
I'm
funds
looking
went.
at for accounting principles for money spent, where it went to, like how many hotels you put people into.
Did you want like name? I can provide you with the breakdown if you want. The profit and loss or balance sheet. But did you want names of clients on there, or would you just want numbers?
I just want accountability. That's all I'm looking for. Where the money was spent.
Yeah, the money was spent on everything that's on that list. Over 60,000 meals. We did already do over $30,000 in hotel stays. We're housing 22 people on a regular basis right now in different group. We have 3 group homes. We helped on the largest day in the wintertime that we helped out. We had 196 people in the emergency shelters and hotels. That was our busiest day in the wintertime this year. So when you gave those funds, it went towards that, which, obviously at 30,000, as I said, was really stretched, and we were able to get, different other grants and different funding, and also just, use reserve funds. But I can, if you want to break down like number-wise, like a profit and loss of just that amount of 30,000, we have no problem to then provide. We can provide that.
That's what I was looking for, because I know, like I said, one thing I have learned from Miss Susan is accountability, and it's based on where the money goes, how it's been spent, and before you get your next dollar. And that's what I was looking for.
Who's Miss Susan? Which
Our finance director.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And I know Eric had you stop by as well at the People's Community Center site, so I'm really thankful for that as well.
Well, if I could, did you have something, Mr. Buxton, or you look like you're about to say something?
Because we've allocated 60, distributed 30, we're potentially going to distribute the remaining 30, but there's questions about making sure that there's numbers and those things. I don't know about all that, and that's fine, but I guess I'll take us in a slightly different direction, but I am prepared to whatever we need to decide tonight. But the slight direction that I'm taking us in is this. You guys do a wonderful job. You pour into the program. I visit the shelter. I see the effort. So this is not about you. You're doing everything you can. My greatest fear, and I don't know how you solve it, and it's not for you to solve, is that we're not fixing the problem. The folks that I saw in that shelter, they're sick. They are. They're not traditional homeless, at least the ones that I've run into, the ones I stop and talk to. They haven't lost their residence, and they're still functioning adults who are working and routinely making ends meet. These folks who are, at least the ones that I talk to, and so maybe I'm not fair when I say all of them, but the ones that I visited with and see, I don't know what you do there. Because you're giving Advil to a broken arm that's not healing. You see? Does that make sense? That's what we're doing. Now, there's no better option for you. You don't have an option, I guess, but that's my concern. Somehow, some way, the state of Delaware, we somehow have to figure out what are we doing here other than giving Advil to somebody in pain. And the pain's not going to get away because the Advil doesn't cure it. Anyway, I don't know how that makes sense, but that's what I saw.
Couldn't agree more. I think there's a role for the county. I know the state has a role in it, social services, health social services. But I think we could take a bigger seat at the table. And so this is a necessary Band-Aid, if you will. It addresses an immediate problem. And I'll just say this, I don't know how to have a show of hands or beat this up, but it wasn't my understanding that Ennio was going to come back with a spreadsheet. I thought that he was just going to describe the results in general. And if I had thought that that's what we wanted, I would not have asked him to come back without fully briefing him on what our expectations were. So I'd just like to get a sense here. I don't know how many people would like to see a spreadsheet with a fine-tooth comb breakdown of everything that he spent before we allocate 30,000 more, because that would take time and effort, and I think that that's not why I asked him back here tonight. So I don't want to waste his time or say, well, we'll put you on next month's agenda. So just quick show of hands, if I may. Don't know if it's breaking protocol.
Commissioner Hall?
Yeah.
Page 25 of the minutes from that last meeting, I stated, since this is money coming from the general fund, which is taxpayer money, I think we need to talk about when folks need to come back and do a presentation of where you've spent the money. And I also said, have a regular running accounting of the money as is spent. So our finance office needs to look at that they'd be able to do that. So I think we need to establish tonight before we do anything else to when we would invite you back to do a presentation of where the money went. So I think that'd be the prudent thing to do, especially since this is taxpayers' money. So I indicated in that last meeting that we did need a regular finance accounting of that of the money, and not joining in, with everything else that the other monies that they spent. So,
Commissioner Angel.
Yes, and that's what I was referring to. I just couldn't remember where I remembered it until you started reading it, Mr. President. But anyway, one of the things that, and I know you're running it different from the way Becky and I ran it, okay? But we had, every penny we had was accountable for. We could show anybody, any nonprofit, you have to have all that stuff ready so you can show it, okay? So when I looked at the sheet, you said that this is what you gave me. 59,500 meals. Well, $1 a meal, that's 60,000 right there. And then you go down, you spent 30,000 on hotel vouchers, which is one of the things too. Well, that's 90,000. And then you keep going down. It doesn't add up accountability-wise. That's why I'm asking for a breakdown also, so we can show you where the money went. You can show us where the money went, so we can give you the other 30,000 so you can proceed. Okay? I'm not going to get into the philosophy of where Code Purple is going. That's up to you now. I understand that. May not agree with it, but I understand it. But I do understand counting principles for what we need to be affordable to the taxpayer dollars. And that I will not give up.
Amen. May I speak? No, you sure? You sure, Eric? No, Eric, you talk.
Because I do want to hear what you want to say, but what I saw, what I witnessed, what I've witnessed before when I visited, was the need, right? The need that you provide on a daily basis. So I do see that. I know the hotels that that you can drive by that we all know. Of course, Commissioner Angel knows, he knows, right? And that's not a negative. He does know. He's been an advocate. So I see what we're doing in this community, right? So my decision, my conversations are separate from whether or not I want to help fund your project, right? Because of that. So let's hear what you have first, because
Yeah, I was just gonna say I'm very thankful and I'm glad you pointed that out, and we can provide that. I didn't know if you don't want to have to do another meeting, we can also provide that with Susan and Alan like we did the last time where we emailed the taxes and all that, so you don't have to do another meeting if you would like to do that. It's, I don't have a problem dealing with the financial department as well. Also, I just was providing you our year, a synopsis of Code Purple this year. That what you have in your hands is kind of what we've been doing so far this year. So we've obviously spent well and beyond $30,000, but we have no problem telling you where that $30,000 that you allocated went to. But I thought it was a benefit for you all, especially as the leaders of the community, to know what Code Purple is doing in your community, so that when people in the community ask you what is Code Purple, you are able to say what we've done throughout the year with a lot of knowledge and intention, and not just your $30,000. You can say well and beyond. They've spent almost $100,000 since January back in the community. With the community involvement, we can't do it without the community. So, if you want to, I can bring back the breakdown and we can do the spreadsheet in another session, or we can also just direct it directly to the financial department, that way saving us all time and energy. But I digress, and do whatever you want.
I think if that's the level of detail we want to see, then you putting it together and sending it out would validate that the money was well spent, and then we'll just find the most expeditious way to get to approval, because my concern is that we're on a summer schedule. We meet next week and that agenda's already been locked down, so but we could probably talk about that and figure out how to do it. But so does anyone object to NEO just providing the information by spreadsheet electronically to Susan, and then she can verify?
Or to everyone and Susan.
Good?
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate y'all. God bless.
And
Yes.
before you leave, I'd like to talk to you tonight if I could. I've been
I
trying to
have
get
an
up.
actual big meeting happening at my church, so I have to go right now already. But email me or give me a call. My number is 302-526-6098. I'm 24/7, 365. God bless you guys.
All right. Back to you, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to new business, round 26, agricultural land preservation, purchase of development rights. Need a motion on that.
Motion to approve round 26, agricultural land preservation, purchase of development rights.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Buxton, second by Commissioner Maston. Any questions on the motion? I don't see any. Lori, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Roll call reveals round 26 of agricultural land preservation, purchase of development rights has been approved by Levy Court. The next item on the agenda, Commissioner Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm ready to make a motion unless there are any last-minute questions. I move to accept the funding offer from Delaware Water Pollution Control Resolving Fund, DNREC, and authorize the President of Levy Court to sign the DNREC funding binding commitment offer and associated loan documents, and move to authorize the district's expansion fee waiver for the existing units within the Whispering Pines Phase 2 area, and freeze the main system capital improvement fee that is to be funded by the DNREC loan at the fiscal year 2022 rates.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Howell, second by Commissioner Hall. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Roll call reveals the motion passed. Second item, Commissioner Howell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to amend the agreement with RK&K accepting their 2022 hourly rate effective for services provided after May 31, 2022, and authorize the President of Levy Court to sign the agreement amendment subject to the county attorney's concurrence.
Second motion.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Howell, second by Commissioner Angel. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, give me a roll call, please.
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Roll call reveals the motion passed from Levy Court. The next item has been removed, and we'll deal with it at a later date at a future committee meeting. Next item, Commissioner Angel.
Move to go into executive session immediately following the business meeting for preliminary discussion on site acquisition for public funded capital improvement, legal strategy session regarding collective bargaining or pending or potential litigation and personal matters pursuant to 29 Del Code 10004 B2, 4, and 9.
Do we have executive session before we take a second on that?
I don't have anything.
All right. And we don't need a second to that then. Information items, next Levy Court meeting, Tuesday, July 19th, 2022 at 7 p.m. That'd be next Tuesday.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to remind everyone that on Thursday, we will be dedicating the new paramedic station out on Route 8 at 10 a.m. We have arranged to have some shuttle vans. Parking will be at Dover High School, and it'll be well marked, and you'll be able to see where to park, and then we'll shuttle people from there over to the site. So we just don't have a whole lot of parking on the site. We're going to have a large canopy tent in the actual parking lot with seating under it for the event. So hope everyone can make it for that. That is available, and it should be a great event. And thanks to the staff, Laura Whistler, Kelly Pitts, Mark Kennedy, and Jeremy Shepard, and Colin, all the people that have been working on it have really put a lot of effort into it. So I hope you can make it. Thank you.
Any other informational items? Mr. Angel.
I will be here for the 19th, but that I may have to leave a little earlier if it goes long that night, because I leave early in the morning for Denver for our NACO conference, just to give you a kind of a heads up.
And Commissioner Howell, you're going also, correct? All right, any other informational items? See none. Any public comments? Any public comments? See none. Commissioner comments? Commissioner Hall, Commissioner Maston, Commissioner Angel.
Commissioner comments. Commissioner comments. What am I doing? I'm going to suggest.
Okay.
This will be brief, just throwing this out there, but there was a period, I talked to Commissioner Angel about this earlier, but at one point he had brought up the need for a water park under the county's umbrella. And I've had a number of people reach out to me asking why aren't we having swimming lessons? Those lessons are dependent on resources available at Del State or Lake Forest. There are situations with both of those sites. And every day, because we participate there, we get notices from Killis Pond saying they're at capacity and can't take any more people. To me, it's supply and demand. I think, we have great beaches and we can't get to them because we live in Delaware. So I think it's worthy of our consideration down the line at off-site prioritizing projects, something like that. I just wanted to throw it out there that I think it is worth our consideration.
Commissioner Maston.
Mr. Pettit-Demonge, do we have an update on the phone system? Has it been fixed?
As of right now, it has not, and but it's not for lack of investigating it. When the problem surfaced on Thursday, staff immediately activated a ticket with our internet provider, and they went through exhaustive tests, rebuilding the connection to the building. There were staff here until about midnight on Friday, along with the consultant from Windstream. All that work was done, and the problem still persists. So now they're working with the actual phone provider, and that formerly known as MTM. They have a new company name now, and the latest I've heard, and it was an active work process, but they were proceeding through a battery of tests as well. Right before the meeting, I was talking to Mark Kennedy about the problem, and working through a few other potential causes that may have occurred last week relative to 911 calls and a third-party provider that the public safety system uses. It's a long story, but I can tell you about it if you're interested offline. But we're working a variety of leads, and so far, I think a lot of folks in IT and the consultants are not sure what the problem is.
Mr. Angel and Commissioner Buxton.
Mike, do we have anything for a city-county liaison meeting yet?
Funny you should mention that. I saw Councilman Neal today at a meeting, and we talked about that, and Mayor was there as well. And I said, we need to know who to contact, who to coordinate with, and they ultimately said to work through the city clerk. So that's what we'll do. We'll work on a few dates with the city clerk's office, and it'll be basically, for those of you not familiar, for a long time we met with City Council Dover, and it was like a subset of City Council, 4 or fewer council people, 3 or fewer Levy Court commissioners, and it's basically, it had been the president and the 2 commissioners who have parts of Dover, like Commissioner Hall, Commissioner Angel, would be at that meeting, and then we would talk about common issues. We would develop an agenda, like the city manager and myself would consult with you all, and then get together and develop an agenda, and we take turns. We meet quarterly. That was the kind of the rhythm we were on with them for many years, and then we kind of got off of that, and haven't been back on since the pandemic got all into us. So, but we'll work on a few dates and run it through leadership and see what works for everybody.
Mr. Buxton.
Just piggybacking off the phone situation, I had attempted to use the phone instead of show up in my usual attire, and was told that the phone probably wouldn't work, maybe wouldn't work, I don't know. Brenda, I bet, still with us, but so that's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. That's why I dressed the way I did tonight. But I'm here. It is.
Mr. Angel.
It's working.
The other thing I wanted to bring up too is lately, if you've been watching the papers and everything, if you remember correctly, years ago, I brought up the possibility after I was in St. Louis about an amphitheater for Kent County. And then Mr. Sweeney had said that the Boy Scouts were going to do one at their area. And in the meantime, it's passed away and it's gone. But I did put feelers out with the city and with Firefly and Dover Downs. And as of last December, Gary Camp was told that I had brought that forth, and due to his father dying at that time, we haven't gotten back together. Things have gotten by through COVID and everything. But now I see it's back on the track, and now they're looking at Mirror Lake area and downtown Dover. It's all of a sudden it's a hot item. But also at the same time, years before that, even before I was a commissioner, I had talked to the city about doing a fire on the water, which is something that RISD does in Rhode Island. There's these big giant pots of fire, wood, and they have all these campers going down the road for family events and things going on to have like a day. Well, as you know, I've been trying to push for a county day or a weekend like old Dover days ever since I've been a commissioner. Because, let's face it, we are the first and last levy court in the United States. We don't honor that. We don't even look at the history of what we do. And I think it's time that we do something. I know Commissioner Sweeney said we need to be at the old State House in the old wig and costumes for a meeting. I don't have a problem with that. I don't mind getting my hair messed up. I just think that we need to push those things forth and keep it. So I'm trying. We need to be more positive on our historical portion. I mean, I know things are getting away and everything's going with technological things, but geez, you got to remember where we came from. And a lot of times you don't remember it until you start acting it out. That's why they have old war and Civil War reenactments and things to bring back the historical portions. And it's about time we did things like that. I just wanted to throw that out as a reminder again that, please, I'm only one vote, but I want to make a plea for it.
To piggyback off that and introduce a thought, sincere thought. No need for decisions tonight. Considering our history, Kent County, and the fact that we have a very famous employee of the county, one time was sheriff and recorder of deeds, whose statue is sitting in a storage unit somewhere in upstate Delaware. I would suggest that we dedicate a piece of property right out there and bring Caesar Rodney home as a location for folks to come and view and witness the historic significance of what Caesar Rodney did for the state of Delaware and this country. And I mean that sincerely. I think it's a fair question. We could do it. I would suggest, I don't know all the particulars. I've been looking into it, but I think it would work. Okay.
Second the motion.
All right. Something to look into then.
Commissioner Angel just made a little historical factoid jump into my mind. 1793 was the year that Levy Court became an elected body. And next year, that will be 230 years. '93.
Yeah,
1683 is when William Penn named Kent County.
I'm glad you remembered that one well, sir.
Something to saw on for a little bit.
Brooks told him that he was here. Any other commissioner comments? Any other commissioner comments? If none, can we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Angel, second by Commissioner Hall. In favor, aye?
Aye.
We are adjourned.